Hey guys, this is Chris, and I'm going to be working on a painting today while I talk to you about some practical tools that you can use to help you spend more time painting than doing chores, like cleaning up and doing all kinds of stuff. And this is part of a series of videos that I'm working on to help you spend as much time painting as possible, whether that's getting everything organized so you don't have to do it at the beginning, at the end of your painting sessions, or just finding time within your day to actually paint. So the painting I'm working on today, this painting here is called Where Is My Love? And I've been working on it for a while. And as you can see my setup there's my easel. This is my iPad showing the reference, and then this is my palette, and then I have my phone for music and the script that I'll be going off today, the points that I want to talk to you about. I'm a very slow painter, so you may see a lot of this painting. And what I'm going to start with right now is I'm going to do some oiling out. And what is that? So oiling out is great for, really something you need for oil painting, because and you may see this, there's certain places in the painting where it gets really dull. Right now I want to work on this half of this figure's face, but it's really dull, so I can't see the colors well, I can't see the values, I can't see the chroma, these kind of things. And you can probably see it even better with the difference between this part of the hair and that part of the hair, or the eyebrow and this hair. So oiling out, I'm going to be using refined linseed oil by Gamblin. Actually, we'll show it right here. Refined linseed oil. It could be any refined linseed oil. And I'm just going to dip my brush into that, just get a little bit on the brush. And I'm going to put that in the area that I'm going to be working on. And just move that around, and hopefully the camera will show you all those values and colors come back out to where they used to be. I mean, it's like I just put the paint on the canvas, and it's been, oh wow, it's been months since that paint has been dry. So the reason that we do this is so that when we start painting over it, this area, because I'm going to be doing some glazing, or when we paint around it, we can get the relative idea of color and value. So that's what I'm going to be working on while I talk to you about setup and cleanup. Now, one of the hardest things to do sometimes is to get motivated to paint. It's hard enough for us to get motivated to do our art, which is kind of interesting because most of us love the craft. I love the craft, but there has been many times within my career as an artist where I really don't feel like it. I don't have the motivation that day or multiple days to paint. And the last thing that we need when we're unmotivated is to have to do chores. Let's say that for a week, it's been really difficult to get motivated. And then finally one day you're like, oh wow, I really want to paint. I'm motivated to paint today. Fantastic. And then you realize that you have to find all of your art supplies. You have to clean them up. Oh, you left your brushes out and now they're all dried up, so you have to go get more brushes or find other brushes. You know, where did you put your paints? Some of the paints are hard to open, so you need to go get a wrench to open them. All these kind of things that keep you from starting right away. And it just kills your motivation. It tremendously kills your motivation. There we go. I've zoomed in to what I'm working on so you can see it better. So the last thing that we want to do before getting starting a painting or getting back to being motivated is chores. We don't want to have to get to do chores just to begin a painting. And I have several tools, practical tools that you can use that will help you keep painting or get to painting as quick as possible and reduce the cleanup, so the next time when you want to take your brush and put it to canvas, it'll be a lot easier for you. And I'm doing all this while I'm painting. And what I'm going to try to do is get some work done on this painting while I help you out. It may be too much, and maybe I'm pausing a lot within this, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. So the first of those tools is to keep your easel out and ready all the time. Now, if I go to my canvas view here, and I zoom all the way out, you'll see that I have my canvas set up on this easel here, which is the same as this easel over here. And I have my palette out with this palette holder, my reference here, and the easel stays up all the time. It's always there for me. And the reason why this is so important is because everything revolves around the easel. Depending on where you set up the easel is also the same place that you would set up your palette. You would set up maybe your paint cart. You would set up your lights. Everything revolves around where you set up your easel. And the other great thing about keeping your easel set up all the time is that you'll be able to look at your painting often. And I find that really important for me, because what'll happen is I'll walk by the painting, maybe it's, a day later or something like that, or the next day or throughout the day, whenever it is, and something will catch the corner of my eye, and I'll think, oh wow, if I just make this quick change or this small change, it would improve this painting tremendously. So just having it out can help with inspiration. Although most of the time, for myself, when I have my painting out all the time, I'll glance over and I'll see something that I need to fix, which is also helpful. You get a glance of inspiration or a glance of something to fix to make the painting even better. So that's number one. Keep your easel out and ready all the time. Now, number two on our practical tools list is to keep your paints and your mediums and brushes organized and ready at hand. Now, I have this really cool IKEA cart, and it didn't cost a lot of money from IKEA, and it has 3 different tiers to it, and it also has wheels, so it makes it super easy to organize my materials on it and to wheel it around anywhere. So I can pull it close to me. I can push it away, get it out of the center of the room when I'm done painting. And on the top layer, the top shelf for this cart, I have all my mediums. I have my brushes and the brush soak and everything that I need while I'm painting. Like, these are the things that I probably use the most while I'm painting. Then on the second level, I have all of the paints that I use most. And that's the major separation for my materials, my painting materials. So you don't need to go into very crazy separation between those. I put the things that I use most closer to the top and the things that I use least at the bottom. I have a ton of paints, too many paints. And a lot of them I don't use. So the ones that I don't use go on the bottom shelf, and if I need them randomly, I'll go searching for them. Only takes a moment. So that's number 2. Organize your paints and your mediums and your brushes. Now, as I'm glazing here, I'm using, as you can see on my palette, I'm using a toxic-free, non-solvent glaze by Gamblin. This is a solvent-free gel, And I like the gel because it sticks to a vertical palette. I use a vertical palette to help keep the light that's on my canvas similar to what's on my palette. There are several different non-toxic mediums out there on the market. Gamblin is the easiest to get, so I use Gamblin. Now, the third tool to help you get to painting faster and to do less cleanup is a brush bath. Now, you can see my video called Non-Toxic Oil Painting for Your Health, and I go into in-depth on why the brush bath is important, how it can save you a lot of time, how to set it up, and the materials to get for that as well. So definitely check out that video if you're more interested, if you are interested in that. This is probably the most important for me and what has saved the most time. Because of this brush bath, I have saved about 10 to 15 minutes daily off of my chores that I need to do that are involved with oil painting. Previously, I would spend that 10 to 15 minutes cleaning up my paints after every session. Now that I can wipe them down and put them in a brush bath, it takes seconds. And when you paint every day like I do, that really adds up. Actually, it adds up to about 90 hours a year. That's 12 8-hour days that I could be painting rather than cleaning. So the brush bath is a tremendous time saver. And if you want to spend a lot of time painting and a lot less time cleaning, use that brush bath. And that's number 3. Now, number 4 on the list is to get a palette cover. Now, I have a handmade palette cover, which isn't so great because I made it myself so it could fit with the easel. The important thing about getting a palette cover is that you can keep the paint on your palette dry for longer, especially the paint daubs that you put out of the tube. Of course, there's some paint colors, oil paint colors, that will dry overnight regardless, like burnt umber. That dries really quickly. But for me, I can leave almost all of these paints out for days and days because I have a palette cover. Now, I wouldn't suggest making your own palette cover. I would suggest buying one on the market. There's these Stay Wet, S-T-A, Sta Wet colors, palette covers. Sta Wet palette covers. Not sure how you say that, but those are really good. They're plastic and they seal really well, and they really protect your palette. So if you're traveling with it, or if you want to take it from room to room, or if you just want to cover your palette because you have cats like I do and you don't want them jumping onto your paints and then tracking that through the house, that would be a nightmare to clean up. The other great thing about this is when you have one of those Stay Wet palette covers, or any palette cover, you can put a bag over it, and then you can put it in the freezer. Now, all the paints on your palette, when they go into the freezer, will stay wet for a lot longer. Weeks for that. But if you do that, and you have a glass palette like I do, you do have to pull the palette out of the freezer and let it sit for about 15 to 20 minutes so that the condensation will dissipate on your palette. So that's number 4. Get a palette cover. That will save you some time. Okay, number 5 on our list is to clean your palette after every single session. Yes, clean your palette after every session. Now, why is this important? Well, and I should be specific here, you don't have to clean off all of the tube paints that you put out. If you have that palette color, those will stay wet for a while. But everything that you mixed up will usually dry overnight, and you don't want to have to try and clean dry paint off of your palette before you get started. It's a lot harder to clean the dried paint off of your palette. and it will take some extra time. So at the end of every painting session, you can take the mixtures of paint off of your palette so you can prepare for the next session, which hopefully is the next day or very soon after. I would suggest, another suggestion, get a glass palette. This is a glass palette that I made myself, but there's a lot on the market that you can buy. The great thing about the glass palette is I can easily use a razor blade to just scrape off the paint super easy. Look how quick that came off. Just a super easy scrape, and it's cleaned. So that's number 5. Clean your palette after every session. Now, the 6th tool, practical tool to help you out, to help you spend more time painting, is to track your setup time and your takedown time. Now, why is this important? Well, if you can track something, if you can measure it, if you have measured it, then you can make adjustments to it. So it's very important to see how long it takes for you the second you get motivated to the second you actually put paint on the canvas or a brush to canvas. How long does that actually take you? For me right now, because I put all of these actions in place and it's taken me years to kind of get all these things set up. I'll get one at a time, then add another, then add another. It takes me about 3 minutes to get painting. After I open up the palette, to get my brushes out, to put a couple paints on the palette, and I'm ready to paint. 3 minutes. So after you track your setup time, you want to ask some questions. What takes the most time to set up? Is it putting paints out on your palette? Is it setting up your easel because you don't have your easel set up and in place all the time? Is it cleaning your palette? Have you not cleaned your palette after every session? Is it finding your supplies? Are your supplies not organized so every single session you have to go find them? Now the next thing you want to track is your cleanup time. So after you're done with the session, just look down at your watch, look at a clock and say, okay, how long does it take me to finish cleaning up? And then start your cleanup process, whatever that is for you. What takes the most time for cleanup? For me, it was cleaning my brushes. That took the most time. And after changing that gave me all kinds of time to spend on painting. So is it cleaning brushes for you? Is it taking everything down? Is it putting things away? What takes the most time? Now, after you have these things tracked, after you know how long it takes, you want to look at each action that you take, each thing that you do, and find which takes the longest. And then tackle that one first. For me, like I said before, it was cleaning up my brushes every time. So I found a solution for that first. That way, I could save 10 to 15 minutes painting time right away. All the other things didn't take as much time. Cleaning my palette, getting my supplies, things like that. So that's number 6. Track your setup and cleanup time, because when we track it, when we measure it, then we can actually adjust it. If we don't know, we don't know how we can adjust. Now, the 7th and final tip that I want to give you, or practical tool, is kind of like things I've already talked about, but like details within it. So things like lights and still life or your reference images. Now in my studio, I have one aperture light. It's the 100X or 100DX or something like that, aperture light with a softbox. It's the Light Dome SE softbox, and I use one single light to light my canvas. I found that this works really well for me. I can position it so I get the least amount of glare. And the important part of this is keeping it up all the time. Always, if you have your easel set up somewhere, keep the lights set up at the same spot so that with a flick of the switch and you're ready to get painting. Now you don't have to get this expensive softbox and light, this professional video. It's actually a light for video creation and things like that. I found that it works really nice, but for years I used those really inexpensive, very cheap silver shop lamps that you can get at the hardware store for like $2 or $3 a piece. For years I used those and it worked just fine. But keep the lights set up all the time so you don't have to do that before you start painting. The next is a still life setup. For years I did still life. Still life is wonderful for increasing your skill because you can get a 3D object right in front of you right away and begin working on how to transfer that from the three-dimensional world into a two-dimensional painting. But the important thing about that, to save time there, is to always keep your still life set up. Always have it, again, close to your easel because everything revolves around your easel. And just keep it set up. Of course, if it's fruit or something perishable, you may have to take it down and put it in the fridge for a little bit and then bring it back out. The next part of this is organizing your reference materials, whether it's digital or physical. So if you, like me, I use digital references, photographs, digital photographs, photographs from places like ArtStation or Unsplash or Pixels, or photographs that I take myself. I keep them very organized in folders, project folders and things like that on my computer, so that I don't have to search for them when I need them. I have all the references for my current paintings that I'm working on right now on my iPad that's here right next to my easel. It just takes seconds for me to tap on the iPad to pull up whatever painting I am working on at the time. Now, if you use physical references, you could do like my friend Mike Orwick does. He's an amazing landscape painter, so check him out on YouTube. It's Michael Orwick, O-R-W-I-C-K. He's got a fantastic YouTube channel of landscape painting. But he uses physical references, and he has these wonderful brown little files that he puts things in to keep them organized. So whatever you use for reference, just like your paints, just like your brushes, all the materials you use, keep them organized so you don't have to waste time trying to find them. And that's it. That's 7 ideas to help you get painting quickly and do a lot less chores and more time creating. The most important thing is to remove friction from the moment that you're motivated to paint to the moment that you take your brush and you put it on the canvas. That's the most important part of this, is to get to it as fast as you can. Motivation is fleeting, so we want to be prepared. So you may say, well, Chris, thanks for all those practical tips, but honestly, I just don't have enough time to paint throughout the day. Well, don't worry. I actually have a video right here to actually help you out with that as well. So hopefully you find that helpful. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Have a wonderful week and keep creating.